Okay, as Joseph said, I'll be presenting on a little project that I've been working on for a while when I have some spare time. Working on a little package to typeset git commit history graphs using the PGF and TikZ graphics engine. So this is my first time at a tech conference. I've talked with a lot of you in my few days here, but just a little bit of background. I started using tech during undergrad almost 5 years ago now, and then during graduate school I got fed up with our hacked together thesis class that was not on CTAN and was unofficially distributed with various changes over the years. So I wrote a more official thesis class for Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's on CTAN now, and this is the next project that I've taken on. It's been a challenge because I'm a user of LaTeX, but I've never really done low-level programming. The class that I built was based on Memoir, so there were higher-level interfaces I was able to work with. So there have been some challenges, and I know Julian has been bugging me to get this on GitHub so he can help me out, and I'm going to get there soon. So we have all these graphics languages in tech, and a lot of people say, well, why do we need this capability? We can just do this outside of tech and include the PDF or EPS or any other vector format. So, well, someone on Tech Stack Exchange asked for it, and this is when I was just getting involved in Tech Stack Exchange. I saw this question, hey, that looks interesting. So I wrote a little answer, and little did I know what Pandora's box would be open there. So I have all these comments on this answer asking me to get this more automated and put it on CTAN, and so I've been working on it slowly. So here's the original question. The user wanted to look at git log in a graph and one-line format and output that repository history into the tech document. So the existing packages in this space, there's gitinfo2, which is a successor to gitinfo by Brent Longborough. And then for RCS, there's a number of packages. SVN, another number of packages. And then there is a generic VC bundle that covers these three and Bazaar, I believe. But all these packages are for textual metadata only. You can bring in the current revision as a macro or maybe the commit message as a macro. There's no support for a visual representation, so a tree structure showing the branching and merging. So here's an opportunity. We could have a package that's used to typeset revision graphs. Now, where could this be used in real-world documents? Because this is really what we need to drive to justify a package to do this in tech. So a couple things I thought of: automated report generation for software shops that are using VCS. Release notes for developers and API users. This could be useful if you're consuming an API and you want to say, oh, well, when did this feature branch make it into master or anything like that. Documentation for advanced users. This is similar to the API. If you have someone that's using actively developed features, they can, if this is in the documentation, they can see which revision they have and what features are in it. And then the last item is other more creative app uses of Git. And my favorite one that I've found recently is called MetroGit, which is actually a Git repository that has a tree structure that mimics the Paris metro system. So if I run git log, I will get all of the stations and all of the lines in the Paris metro system. And it goes on and on. You can see how many branches we have. So right now we can browse this information in a command in a terminal. And we can also go to a GUI representation of it. And that's shown right here. We can see all the stations and all the lines. There is a note in the README for this repository that there are actually some cycles in the system that, so the entire map can't be captured by this because Git is acyclical. You can't have a cycle. But so this could be a more creative use for this package if you wanted to do your city maps using this method. Okay, so now we have a couple of places where this could be used in a real world document. And so we start off with that textual format. Each commit is marked by an asterisk, and then the column number of the asterisk essentially tells you the branch depth, and then the pipes and the slashes and backslashes tell you how the different branch levels are interconnected. And then you get the first 7 digits of the hash and then the commit message. So we can go from this, and this is the part that I'm working on automating. We can go from this format using a Git hook, and this was similar to the system used by Brent Longborough in his Git info package. He has various hooks that can be installed in your repository. So every time you commit, it will update this information for the next time you typeset the document. So we can go from this format into something that looks like that. And the formatting is pretty flexible. There are different styles, TikZ styles defined for the hash, the commit message. You can leave off the commit message if you want to. You can color the different branches different colors if you want to. And because TikZ is tightly integrated with Beamer's overlay, we can also do annotation type things. So we can refer to each individual commit. Like I can change the color of a commit if I want to talk about something in a talk. I can show arrows if I've squashed commits or anything like that. And we can also do annotations and markings. So here's the sample code. This is basically what I'm trying to get I don't really know what form it's going to be, if it's a tech macro or some sort of sed script to convert that tree structure on the terminal window into some code that TikZ can work with. So the basic idea is you have one definition for each commit. It's internally represented by its hash. And then you have the information about the commit message and also the branch depth, which tells it how far along in the horizontal space it is. Now, you can immediately see some problems here, because when you write a commit message, it doesn't know about all of text cat goes and special characters and things like that. So that piece of the argument has to be read verbatim, which is something I'm still learning about because I'm not a low-level tech programmer yet. So, as I said, we need to parse that input from the git log output, read it verbatim, take care of any special characters and things like that. And we need some way to deal with the commits branch depth. So the example I showed is pretty simple. We only have branches 2 deep, but in like the Paris Metro example, there are like 20-something branches. So if we go back to just things that I was talking about earlier, I gotta quit the GUI. So not only are there times where we have forward slashes and backslashes, there are also places where branches cross one another. You can see that right here with an underscore. So these are the tricky things that I'm running into that I don't know how to handle yet. And then other potential improvements that I've thought of. PGF 3.0 was released, and it includes the graph drawing library, which requires LuaTech, but it allows you to input a graph structure in basically a GraphViz type format, and you can specify different layouts for the graph. So that could be a way to make this a little bit more flexible. Right now it uses a matrix structure, so it's very linear. If you went to the graph drawing library, you have capability to do all sorts of different tree layouts that are implemented in Lua code. And then the other idea is it's kind of a pain to have to refer to the 7-digit beginning of the hash when you're referring to these nodes for labeling and things. So if you could look in the log for a tagged commit, or even look at the head of each branch, if you could alias those so you'd have a more convenient way to refer to different branches and references in the tree. And then kind of going off of that idea, we have this concept of head caret, which will go one behind the current head on that branch. Or you can do head caret 1 for the same thing, head caret 2 for 2 behind, and so on and so forth. Just different ways to extend it so the input is flexible. You can refer to different commits without needing to remember that 7-digit hash. So, like I said, this is still a little bit cobbled together. I need to clean it up, get it on GitHub. I know Julian wants to help me out. He's been badgering me a little bit, and I just haven't had that much time to work on it. So my goal is to have this on GitHub by the end of the summer, and then hopefully we can get a little bit more momentum and I can start learning some more low-level tech. And then hopefully an initial CTAN release sometime in early 2016. So people can start using this if they want to. They can tell me that it's garbage and I shouldn't be doing this in tech and whatever. We'll see what happens, but I would like to get it out there. I think it would be an interesting tool to have, and I'd like to see how people use it if they do. So that's all I had for now. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
So you're trying to pass this information. Does Git not have a way of making a more machine readable version? Because that log version is for humans to read. Is there a version that would be actually easier to use?
You can output the GraphViz like structure. So if I went to the Lua graph drawing library, I could use that machine readable structure directly. But then in that format, you don't get the commit message with it.
So you'd have to read both.
You'd have to get both and put them together. Julian?
GitLog is a so-called porcelain command. So I think using it is probably, you probably shouldn't parse the graph that it's producing.
Okay.
You should probably go at a lower level and reconstruct, maybe not in tech, maybe in another language, maybe delegate that task to another language, Lua, or some other language.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so parse the lower level of the way Git represents the commit graph and all of that. And then generate your TikZ code from that. I think it would be much easier.
Okay, yeah, that ties in with what Joseph was saying. If we can get a machine readable format, I'm not sure if the GraphViz format can be used for if you don't have the graph drawing library. I'd be interested to see. Yeah.
Did you already thought about page breaks?
That is another thing to sort out. So obviously you're not going to be able to fit the whole Paris metro map on one page unless you're doing like an ebook or something with a continuous page. But yeah, that's another thing to handle. I think there is a library in TikZ for off-page references somewhere, so we might be able to reuse some of that code, but I'm not positive. Yes?
You tried to run or you tried to, well, how much automation do you have at this stage actually?
It's very, very little. I mean, it's, the commit message is still put in there by hand because I haven't figured out how to scan it to protect against any characters and things like that.
And let's say you have a way of automating the whole thing. Do you think you'll hit some memory limitations, say TikZ or something like that? Like if you have a big graph, will it just make
Yeah, you could. I mean, given some of the stuff that PGF plots does, I think that it would have to be a very large tree to run into that. But because I mean, PGF plots, it does have some special code for doing the math, but it can handle very large data structures. So I don't think you'd run into that for any practical repository. That's another thing that might be a nice feature is you could bound it. You could say I want only this far back in the history, or I want only this piece of the history. Other questions?
Well, I think we'll, thank you again for that.
Yep.
That talk.
Thank you.